Good evening and welcome to this week's episode of Sunday Night Live, your favorite automotive show where we talk about all the issues that affect the customer satisfaction index at your store. Because if customers are happy, they will come to you for everything they need when they need it. And we've added something to the show, fixed ops retention strategies. The brainchild of my friend Mike Vogel here decided to get the four of us together to talk about those things that focus on how each process relates to customer retention. That's a big buzzword today, retention. It's like it's something new, but it's not. It's always been important. As a matter of fact, it's been way ahead of whatever's number 2 on the list. So we're going to do this monthly as part of the show, and we'll take a different element of retention. And with this episode, we're talking particularly about employee retention and the engagement process. Now, unlike previous shows, what we'd like to do is we'd like to kind of cover the topics kind of round robin, the four of us, and then we'll reserve the chat for specifically Q&A as it relates to each of the topics. Everything's planned, but sometimes things go a little different, right? And we may go a little over, but we own the network, so who cares? As long as we cover the material and we get people that benefit from it, that's really the bottom line here. So how about a quick introduction before we jump into it, starting with Mike Vogel on top, and then we'll go around.
Hey, good evening, everybody. This is Mike Vogel, the Fixed Ops Coach, and I'm happy to be here and happy to be working with Paul, Robert, and Joe about a subject that's dear to my heart, which is customer retention. As Paul alluded to, we've been going on several decades of talking about customer satisfaction and customer retention. Unfortunately, the reality is we haven't done a really good job of it at the dealership level. And so we hope that we can share some of our career tidbits that will hopefully give you an aha moment here and there and make your operation a better operation. So thanks for being here. We appreciate all of you.
All right. I'm Joe Clementi, Coach Joe. Thanks, Mike. Thank you, Paul, for having us all. Mike and Robert, this is a great group to be a part of. Really, it's one of the most passionate things we always talk about, culture and environment, right? People, the context of delivering an environment that will improve your business. This is going to be a great topic to discuss. Even as we go deeper and deeper, it's going to help your business. That's what we're all passionate about. Thanks for having me.
Hello, everyone. My name is Robert Sebestyen. It's such an honor to be here. I want to welcome everyone that's joining us. And thank you, Paul, Mike, and Joe for making me part of this. Hey, I'm a guy that could have gotten away from fixed operations, although there are those who say that you can only get out of the automotive business dead, right? But I got out, and then I found myself so passionate. I've achieved so many good things while I was in it. And then I bought a business, a brick and mortar business, and took it to 4.8 stars, pretty much the same as fixed operations, right? So I got back and I'm passionate about sharing what I've learned over the years of winning the Southeast in fixed operations with a couple of brands, actually 3 of them, and sharing what I've learned then along the way with whoever will listen. So thank you guys for having me.
Thank you, gentlemen, for being a part of this, and thanks for helping out because this is really geared towards service managers, general managers. It's to give you a different perspective on how you do what you do. Sometimes a fresh set of eyes can make something that seems like an insurmountable task really, really easy. You guys know me from the show. I'm Paul Meijer. Every Sunday night, we do a show here from 8 p.m. Eastern until sometimes it's 30 minutes, sometimes it's an hour, depending on how many questions we have, things like that. But it's always to bring value to the automotive business. And I'm proud to be associated with these gentlemen on the screen here with me because we all share a very similar passion for the auto business. And so thank you to everybody in the audience that's watching live. And thank you to all of those who are going to be watching it on the replay. We get a lot of people that watch it on the replay because I get questions, things like that, messaged to me sometimes weeks afterwards about something that's 45 minutes into an hour show. So we hope it brings value to you tonight and on the replay. And by all means, share it with anyone that you think would benefit from it. So with that, let's jump right into it. We talk about customer retention, but there is no such thing as customer retention without employee retention, right? So I guess the first question I want to start with, have any of you ever left a job because of dissatisfaction, and specifically, what caused that dissatisfaction? Mike, we'll start with you.
Well, absolutely. I'm not proud to say it, but I've had a couple of instances during my career where I've had to leave on my own accord just because of people above me. And basically what it is not living up to what was promised to me, what was told to me, and just basically telling me it's this way or no way, kind of take it or leave it attitude. So it's unfortunate when you're spoken to that way, and it's unfortunate to, regardless of the position, it's an unfortunate situation if anybody in a leadership position should choose to take that path. And so it's such a critical part to know your people and understand your people and keep them in tune, make sure that you're on the same wavelength, so that everybody's on the pathway to employee satisfaction, eventually leading to customer satisfaction.
So basically, put your money where your mouth is, right? If you say you're going to do something for an employee, you need to honor that commitment, because otherwise they're not going to stay.
Correct.
Right.
How about you, Joe?
Yeah, I have as well. And for similar reasons to Mike, listen, it's all about the culture of the people that either own the franchise or lead the franchise. It's either a good environment or a bad or a negative environment. And when you're in that situation, if you're dealing with a person that just doesn't live the culture, that doesn't exude a confidence of, hey, we are on a mission and here's our mission, there's a disconnect, right? And we've all worked for that person that is just, I'm in charge, I'm the boss, and you're my property. And for real good leaders, we don't play that game. And yeah, unfortunately, that happens quite a bit. And it's kind of a methodology of, hey, if you can't replace me, if you can't do what I want to do, I'll get someone to replace you. And you find out later they've replaced you tenfold, right? Just simply because that they don't have the right setting. So yes, I have.
Joe, I've always been a firm believer that you don't have to say what your title is. You have to live what your title is. If you have to tell them who you are and what you do, guess what? You're not the person for the job.
Yeah, when you lead with your title, you're right. When you lead with your title, instead of leading with, hey, I'm here to support you, then that sets the tone for a culture. Looks like Paul's a little behind.
Yeah, the audio I think is good, but the video lags a little bit at times, and it kind of takes its turns deciding who it's going to mess with. So it's the audio that's important, not this mug. Robert, how about you, my friend?
That's right. Hey guys, I started on the dark side of the force, and I'm not talking about parts department. I'm talking about sales. So I started in sales. I was a rookie salesperson. I didn't know anything about sales, but I was fortunate enough that I worked for a dealership where they provided training. Unfortunately, they only provided training inconsistently. So I actually participated in the Grant Cardone training, and I got really good at sales. However, this was the time when we worked 12 hours a day, sometimes 6 days a week, sometimes even more. And it just became too much. No time for family. You couldn't do anything but work. In addition, this place allowed bullying, horseplay, and fun is good now. Okay. So there's good fun, healthy fun. But this place allowed bullying where employees were hurt emotionally and sometimes even physically. One guy came to work, pulled out his drawer, and a bucket of water poured out from the drawer into his lap. So the guy couldn't make a living. He had to go home and change his clothes. So they didn't have a career path either. Although, again, they provided one good training, which was Grant Cardone's early in-person seminar, which benefited me greatly. But other than that, no consistent training, bullying, and crazy hours. And you can't do that today to employees. You've got to provide consistent training. You've got to cut out the bullying and have some good, healthy fun with your people, right? And work them decent hours. Work while at work, but give them a great schedule. It can be done.
Yeah. So, employee satisfaction, and why would somebody leave a job, right? I think we've all been there at some point. One of the memories that comes to mind for me is that, I was working for this company. Things were going great, continually getting great performance reviews. Everybody's happy. The director pretty much leaves you to do what they know you know how to do. And, you're never looking at the clock because you know what the mission is. So the clock didn't really matter. There's a change in management. Now the new manager comes in, little different. Now the new manager starts micromanaging. They want to report about the other two reports that were already generated. I'm like, that's not helping me sell product. I don't need to give you that. It's all in Salesforce. If you're interested in what the report says, A, read the report, and B, if you want clarification, go into Salesforce. So in the meantime, unbeknownst to them, I had been pursued by another company for 3 years of working there. But I always put the other company off because I was quite happy where I was up until the time that the sales director changed the game, became a micromanager, and put into question everything that was done. So at that point, I engaged in conversation with the other company, and I took that other position. So it's really no different in your stores. If you treat the employees well, and some of the things that these gentlemen here have talked about on the panel, then you minimize the risk that they're going to engage in those conversations that take them away from your stores. So that's the takeaway here. We've got a lot of comments. I appreciate all the comments. Let's see if we've got some specific questions here. To Linda Henderson's point, I just said that people don't leave jobs, they leave managers. That's exactly why I left, and I think we've all been there. Let's see. So if you have specific questions to that would be awesome. Now, the other part, Owen talks about training and company culture must be aligned for long-term success, right? So how many companies actually invest in training and development programs that can help your employees feel valued and help them grow within the company? So the question I want to ask you, gentlemen, is how do you think training and development programs can contribute to employee satisfaction and retention? Mike, what do you think about that?
Okay, so before I jump into that question, I want to kind of set the stage for employee retention, employee satisfaction. It's a real basic thing that we need to do at the dealership level, which is satisfy our employees so they want to stay with us, so that they can satisfy our customers and they want to stay with us. The challenges that we're faced with is how many leaders in car dealerships actually know enough about their employees to satisfy them. Just like we talk about, we have to know our customers to know what's important to them. The same holds true for our employees. And where the challenge becomes is every employee is a little bit different. We all have our little, quirks about us that we want, that are important to us. Some is time, some is money, some is your question, Paul, training and opportunities. So unless we're taking the time to sit down both before we hire, when they're hired, when they come on board, and then ongoing, making sure that we're in tune with their needs, how are we going to get there? So that's kind of my segue into training, and training is necessary at all levels, whether it's an entry level porter position, or it's the service manager, service director, fixed ops director, parts manager, customer relations manager. we all need ongoing training. We all don't know it all. We all do not know it all.
We
And
don't.
yeah, except for Paul, of course. And you know, in order for us to grow both individually and as a company, we have to have ongoing training going for everybody. So that's my takeaway.
So to Owen Moon's point here, training and company culture must be aligned for long-term success. So the training piece of it, it gives them a sense of purpose and a sense of value.
And it makes them more valuable because the more they learn, the better they become. The better they become, they're both valuable to themselves long-term and to the company.
Which means that when the customer comes back, they see the familiar face. They think it's a good company to work for.
Right.
How about you, Joe? What do you think?
Yeah, I'm going to tie right back into what you said. When the employee, the teammate is allowed to live to their potential working genius, where they become a part of the solution, that's when greatness comes about, right? When you don't have to look over their shoulder, when you're supporting them to learn and develop and create an environment where they feel comfortable, that can be successful in, where they're gaining the insights and the knowledge. That is a powerful reciprocating pay plan, right? That's the way you bring more people back to you. When you engage your teammates in an environment where they're encouraged to give their all, to be their greatness, they'll run after the target with all their energy and excitement. And the one missing link, or the one continuous topic that Coach Mike and I talk about, I think all of us talk about, right, is the leadership learning and development. We often hire the best talented person for the role, but how do we teach them becoming a better, more impactful leader at all levels, right? It affects every level in a dealership. And so I think when you embrace that learning environment, you encourage your team members to go through the Grant Cardones, right? To go through the John Maxwell courses, to take the next level of leadership, because that's how people engage in giving their all. They become part of the solution because they're now allowed to give their genius. They're empowered to give their part of their knowledge. That's my 2 cents.
And to follow up, to kind of piggyback off of what Mike said about knowing your employees and the leadership piece of it, like you're talking about the training, you know, how many companies put their management through some of these training programs, Dale Carnegie, you know, some of these others, and how many of the managers really know all their employees? You take a guy like Ed Roberts, who's got 90 some odd technicians and God only knows how many other employees. He knows most of his employees and he knows their story, their families, their struggles. So he's a more effective leader. And guess what? It shows in the numbers, right?
Right.
Robert?
Absolutely. And you know what? Ed Roberts is somewhat of an outlier. You know, most of us probably won't get to that level to get to know 90 employees that well. But decide how many employees can you know really well? How many employees can you learn the names of their spouses, their hobbies, and all that? But then you got to empower your assistant managers, your advisors to be what you're trying to be, to get to know, to connect with the technicians and them to connect with each other. So you build a culture, right? But going back to training, an untrained employee is a frustrated employee. That employee is constantly thinking about quitting, about leaving, because they're constantly making mistakes that they would not be making had they been trained, had they been empowered. And by the way, I want to answer a little bit of Jerry Davis's comment. You know, if you get into a dealership as a new manager and you find that everybody's frustrated, morale is really low, you got to re-onboard every employee. And regardless, if you find that your dealership right now is going in the wrong direction and morale is low, you got to re-onboard, just like as if you were onboarding from the beginning, and then do continuous maintenance. That PMI that Paul, you talked about not long ago, or MPI, the multi-point inspection, a wellness checkup on your employee, a regular MPI on your employee, and not something that you do as a checklist and check things off, but do it from the heart, like really caring, so that you can uncover situations that bring about coaching conversations. But the training's got to happen. You got to make sure that you know, are your employees up to the training level that they need to be so that they can serve the customers at the highest level? If they're not, well, one, you're losing money. Two, you're going to lose that employee because, again, an untrained employee gets into situations when they get in over their head, and they create situations that become fires, right? And we're not in the firefighting business. We're not in the apology business. We're in the exceptional customer service business. So, by the way, I would sit down with the staff in Jerry's case and say, hey, guys, this ownership is so frustrated because you guys have been losing. It's not your fault, but let's give them some wins a few months. So, guys, let's rally together and show them that as a team, we can win, because everything's funny when we're making money. And then we go back to the owners and the general managers and say, hey, guys, we got to take care of these people. Look at these people. They brought CSI up. They brought the sales up. And guess what? If ownership doesn't come around, they'll have a mass exodus. As we were talking about the first question, have you ever left a job because you were frustrated for this reason or other? But as a leader, you don't have a choice. People are tough. Leading people is tough. So leadership training, like Joe and Mike and Paul just said it, leadership training is critical for management so that we can reach the hearts and then lead them with excellence and love everyone despite of themselves sometimes.
Yeah, I'm just going to add one thing, if I might, Paul. The importance of creating a good learning and development plan, creating engagement around a clear, simple set of priorities and goals. It's going to function as a lighthouse. It's going to orient the behavior and provide a pathway for your teammates to follow, right? It's going to align them to that lighthouse. And that's the key part of this process is you just can't hire for a skill set and put a person in the job. You have to continually develop them so that their skill sets rise to their own challenges.
Now, Robert, to your point of the training will then elevate the store, raise sales and revenue. Isn't that typically the time that they reevaluate the pay plan? But that's another topic altogether. I'm just making it funny right there. So let's see. Linda had a comment about career plans during the interview phase. We're going to get to some of that in the next question. So just want to make sure you know that. Let's see here.
Hey, Brian Moore's got a good question there.
Brian Moore, I have a question. I'm interviewing for a manager position this week. I anticipate, why don't I put it on the screen? I anticipate having a very good chance of being brought on. I have not run a service department before. What can I do as a new manager to make sure I earn the trust and respect of the current employees so there isn't a mass exodus? That is a great
question.
So I'd like to jump on this one, if I may. Just because you haven't run a particular service department, if you've run a business and you understand the mechanics of running a business, it doesn't really matter what that business is. Service is just yet another business. What I would do to earn their trust and respect, I would come in and I would make it a point to get to know all of the people first. Make it about them first. Make them a priority. And look, nobody remembers everything, but guess what? You'll remember everything that you write down. So go in with a pad. You're not going there to take inventory, but in a sense you kind of are, because you want to know who the people are, and just tell them flat out, listen, I'm new. I'm looking forward to working with you all. I'm going to jot down some notes because it can be overwhelming to meet a lot of people at once, but this is important to you. Therefore, it's important to me. So I want to make sure that I don't miss anything. So you start your profile on all of the people so that you get to know all of them and take the time to do that. That will show them that you care about them. And I think it was Jackie B. Cooper, one of the many people that said this, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So if you take the time to get to know them and show them that you care, I think that'll go a long way in your effort to win them over. And don't go in there like a wrecking ball thinking you're going to change everything in 30 days. You're not. Right. The first 30 days, you do nothing other than get to know the people, learn the landscape, find out what's going on, do your assessment. And once you've done your assessment, then you formulate your plan. Mike?
What I would say is three words. Listen to Paul's point, and actually what Robert brought up. Listen to them. Let them vent if they want to vent. Let them tell you what's good, tell you what's bad. Ask a lot of questions. You need to be searching for, why are you there? Why are you the new service manager? What happened under the old service manager is really not important, but it's important what the people perceive to what happened. And then finally, the third word is observe. Observe how the department is running and determine what your pathway is going to be to making changes. And then when you're ready to make changes, include your team in the change process. One of the things I did, even after 30 years of running service departments, was anytime I was going to make a substantial change, whatever it might be within the service department, I always included my people in it because I wanted their feedback. I wanted their questions. I wanted to answer everything, as opposed to just, hey, I'm the service department manager, I'm doing this and that's it. You're not going to get any fans if you do it that way. Right. You got to have them, you asked it so there isn't a mass exodus. You're going to get their respect when you listen to them and when you ask questions of them and you keep them involved in the processes.
Absolutely. Joe, your take on that?
Yeah, you both said it so well. I would just say ask more questions, because the more you learn, the more you'll be able to identify where the challenges are, and you'll actually be able to get them involved in the solution. When they're a part of the solution, then the results come as a reflection of that. The trust and respect is built over time. When they can trust you by making a blanket statement about either previous management or process failures, and you take that in rather than solving it right away, then they trust you more. They know that, okay, that person is listening to me, and they're going to use the feedback to better the environment for everybody involved. And I would just say, ask more questions. And then lastly, to Mike's point, when you're about ready to make a change, include them. Hey, this was a result of speaking with Robert about this. He had a great idea on changing this part of the process. We're all going to move in this direction. Is everyone in agreement? I just think that engagement part of it is going to earn your respect as well.
It shows that they're valued. And I want to put this comment up from Tony Owens because it's right in line with what we're talking about. Get to know the people, because if you manage 40 people, you might need to manage them 40 different ways based on what their language is. There's a great book called The 5 Love Languages, okay? It's not necessarily a sales book, but maybe it is, because everything in life boils down to sales, right? You're either selling or being sold. A sales trainer I read a book about that. So the point is, you may communicate to somebody a certain way thinking that that's how they assimilate the information, but it may be totally contrary to how they like to receive it. So it's very important. So to Tony, great comment, manage 40 people 40 different ways. Sometimes that has to happen. You may have some commonalities between, but be open to each person is different and they all respond differently. Take it away, Robert Sebestyen.
Hey guys, hey Brian. So I'm going to give you some specifics. And of course, there are other questions that you can ask. And some of them, the first two are out of a book. It's called The Coaching Habit. I won't even try to pronounce his name. He's here on LinkedIn, Michael Stanley Bungay, something like that. And the first question is, you sit down with each employee and simply say, what's on your mind? What has been on your mind lately? And listen, it goes right along with what everybody has been saying. That's a good question. But then you ask, what else? What else is on your mind? What else have you been thinking about? And then, what do you like about working here? What do you think should be improved? What do you think that could be done better? And again, take notes from each employee. And of course, you don't promise that you can fix everything, because you cannot fix everything. But you do promise that you will help them reach their personal goals. So that would be the next question. What's your personal goal? Do you see yourself achieving your personal goals? And will you allow me to help you reach it? But admit that I'm new to this. And hey, I'm new to this, but I believe that together we can build the best service department that this town has ever seen, maybe the state or perhaps the United States. But will you team up with me? Will you help me? Let's together build the best service department ever while you achieve your goals. And again, I'm new to this, so I'm going to need your help quite a bit. So I apologize in advance for the mistakes I'm going to make. And I've been the new guy. And I was coming from the dark side, from the sales department. So these guys were saying they didn't realize that I managed a manufacturing facility before. So think of a master technician. When they found out that a guy who used to be a salesperson became a service manager, I didn't know the components of a manual transmission. I didn't know what a flywheel was. Turning a flywheel, I didn't know what it was. I thought I had to do something with flies. But the guys were gracious to me, and they walked me through it. And together we won the Southeast. We went to Mexico with 2 of my technicians and a service advisor because we won the Southeast. So, hey, that's what we wish for you, Brian, that you win your region. Don't settle for anything less. Set a big goal, but ask for lots of help.
Ed Shepolowski has a question. He says, what is the employee's choice of training method? I guess that's kind of open-ended, right? I mean, each person is different. Some people, there's different ways of learning. Some people have to see it. Some people have to do it. Some people have to read it. So you've got to find out what type of a communicator your employee is, and then offer them training. There's so many different trainings. I'm a big believer in live in-person training. I just think being there one-on-one, being able to gauge their participation and their engagement, and 2, reading the body language, right? If they're checked out and they're not involved in the training, they're not going to get any benefit out of it. That's one of the things that you don't always see in a virtual training environment, because if somebody's busy doing something else, but yet they have the training on, you don't know how much they're really getting out of it. So that's kind of a tough question. Any of you gentlemen have opinions on this? Strong either way?
I'll tell you this, the best training I got during my career was I worked for a lot of Toyota stores in the Los Angeles region, and the training that we would have down at their regional headquarters, just getting in a room full of peers and not only having an expert speaker doing the training for us, but being able to speak with each other and answer each other's questions was powerful.
The good thing about that is that you may have the same question as somebody else, or may not think of asking it. And in a group setting like that, you benefit from it, because let's face it, there's only a handful of scenarios in life, I believe, that we all share, but we may not think of it at the same time. And how many times do you find out that you forgot to ask the question you wanted to ask when you had the opportunity to do so? The beauty of the internet is that, I forgot to ask this, so you can message it and you can find your answer later. But in a training situation, you don't always have that opportunity. So the group setting, like Mike mentions, it's invaluable, because I've heard lots of sessions, and I worked for Lexus for a number of years. So, that's a division of Toyota. So we've gotten some of the same training. You benefit from listening to other people in that same room.
Yeah, you get a lot of best practices as a result of that, right? You get things that you didn't think of that were successful in another environment that you can take with you. So live environment is probably the best, especially in a room full of like-minded people.
Hey guys, some of the best training that I've found is when the manager is involved or active coaching happens after the training. So there might be virtual training, there might be in-person training, or whatever kind of training. But if the training is not followed up on, then most training is useless, because some guys go to training. Some people are students. Some people want to just study, and they never implement anything. So if it's not followed up upon, you will never see improvement. So training's got to produce results. You have to see within 2 or 3 weeks as a manager, you have to see, okay, this guy has been to customer service training, CSI improvement training, or sales training. You got to see the improvement in that area, that specific area that they've been trained on. And if you don't have that, because again, you have a person who goes to, let's say you live in Charleston, South Carolina, like I do. They send you to training in Atlanta. And the instructor, a good instructor, will say, I know some of you came here because it's a vacation day. And those guys will not pay attention. So unless you have a coach, a manager follow up, it's not going to happen. That training is wasted. There's the person again that just wants to study. They don't implement anything. And then you've got the guy who wants to make a lot of money, wants to make people happy, wants to take care of their family, and that's the ideal employee. Of course, we wish everyone would be that way, right? They eat up whatever training, but you find out after the training, okay, was it the training that didn't work for you? Was it the format? Let's put you into a different format because I'm not seeing the results from that training, right? So switch up the format.
Now, Ed Chepolowski, he's got some great input here. He said, younger employees have grown up on new technology methods of using augmented reality, cell phones, and not paper and video. This is true. You have to tailor your training to that particular individual. But at the same time, I'm more of a fan of live in person, because if you started off well and you keep them engaged, I think they and you will get more out of that training. But you do have to gear it towards specific people. And to your point, younger people, yes, they prefer more on the phone, whereas older folks like us on the screen here probably prefer tablets more. But the reality is, if you want to train it, if you want to attract younger technicians, you're not going to sell them on tablets. But if they can use their phone, yeah. So good point there, Ed. Any other comments or questions, I should say? Paul Machine, a great topic. So the onboarding process is sorely under development.
100%.
The process in 90% of dealerships, especially with service and parts. Onboarding. It's important to lay everything out, set the expectations, which leads us into our next topic here, which is setting career advancement opportunities and pathways within the company to provide your employees with a sense of purpose and long-term career prospects. So that ties into that, right? It's not just a question of just hiring somebody. It's a question of hiring somebody for a specific role, then laying out for them, whether they're younger, newer, older, mid-level, whatever the case may be, laying out a career path for them. Okay, so you're just starting. We're going to start you off as a lube tech. You're going to do this for 3 months or whatever the case may be. In the meantime, you're going to do some schooling, which is going to give you more skills. As you get those particular certifications, you will then move up in the ranks in pay, in responsibilities, with the goal of moving you into the main shop, right? You set a career path so they know what they're working for, what they're working on, and what they're working towards, so they can follow it. And then what's good about that is you hold yourself accountable and you hold them accountable, but you hold yourself accountable first, because the fish stinks from the head. If they see that what you laid out is specifically what you're going to follow to make sure that they are successful, they're more likely to buy into that onboarding process because they see a vision at the end of the tunnel. It's not a train coming at them. What are your thoughts on that, Mike?
So you're 100% right. I think some of the challenges that we all face when it comes to technicians, and throughout my career, it was the same challenge. I'm sure it's still going on, which is your entry-level technicians usually think that they're going to go from a lube technician position to a master technician in about 90 days or maybe 6 months. And I'm being sarcastic, of course, but they expect to get there pretty quickly. So sitting down and going through both at the hiring process and during the onboarding, this is what your career looks like. Part of it is my responsibility. Part of it is what you do on your end of it. You need to hold up your end of the bargain, and I'll hold up my end. So there's testing, there's training, there's certification levels, there's quality of work, there's completing work on time. There's so many different variables in there. But when you're clear on it and you show them and they start achieving it and they start moving up and everybody else sees that, all of a sudden you're like gold. And really when we have a technician shortage that we've had for a long time, and it's getting worse as I hear. I think nothing better than having a happy technician and a retained technician, because during my career, my happy technicians were my best recruiters, and they weren't going to give me, somebody that wasn't worth their weight. They were going to usually recommend somebody in that they can trust. They know that they're going to fit into the shop, and they're going to not embarrass them by recommending them. And the same can hold true for a service advisor as well. So when we talk about customer satisfaction and we talk about customer retention and employee satisfaction, employee retention, you get that employee satisfaction in line and then employee retention in line, all of a sudden your recruiting concerns are lessened for sure.
Great point. Joe?
Yeah, I want to follow that with a thought, because when we hire, we have a hire for need. And so we hire what we think is the best candidate, and we have them fill out paperwork and they start their job. There's really a foundation that proves out that the right onboarding strategy, the right recruiting provides retention. Those people that were properly recruited and properly onboarded, properly developed, they will, as Mike said, bring in other happy people. They're going to avoid the technician that was just from job hopping to job hopping. They're not going to recommend that person. If they're onboarded right, the key is recruiting the right people on the bus. I say it often. So if you're going to have success and you're going to thrive and grow, there's 5 or 6 elements, right? But I think one is the onboarding process. 2, it's important to have clear processes and develop individual capabilities within those processes. It's important to have priorities, to identify what your mission and your purpose is, because I believe this, you have priorities whether you realize it or not. Whether you name it or not, you all have priorities. And if you want to grow, you better identify them. And you better make sure that the behavior of the teammates are supporting those priorities. Then the last 2 or 3, empower your teammates so that they can live through that mission and that purpose. Interact with them so that they are cultivating a community within their own community and with their clients. And then lastly, listen for feedback. We've talked about it a lot. Just keep asking questions, listen for feedback, because the more they are living to their greatness, the more you're going to see success as a result.
100%.
That's right. Hey, so our employees will not engage, they're not get on that bus of career development if they're frustrated often, if they live in a state of constant stress. So one of the most important things that I think a manager can do is remove stressful situations promptly. We used to call them alligators. I still call them alligators because we're in the South. Capture alligators quickly and handle them quickly. Those situations that are frustrating your service advisor, your technician, maybe your loop tech. And by the way, for the record, I did learn how to change oil really quick, and I became a noise and electrical diagnostician along with my technicians over the years. So I became an avid student. I didn't stay dumb. I started dumb, but I didn't stay dumb when it comes to automobiles. So I earned their respect because I laid in the trunks of cars and we fixed a lot of cars together. But one of the most important things for successful people is that they take care of frustrating situations quickly. If it's frustrating to the customer, never have a phone call coming in that says, hey, you said you would call me. Now it's been a week and nobody has called me. Handle those, because they will stop. Your employees will stop in their tracks. They will not continue their career development if they're frustrated all the time. If they see that the industry is one where stress is just something that they experience to the extreme every day. Some stress is normal. Nothing's easy, right? Nothing worth having is easy. However, if you learn and you teach them how to eliminate stress and these stressful situations right away before they pile up upon each other, then they'll go from a loop tech, from a detailer, to partner in the dealership. Like I've seen several people start out in the detail department and become a partner over the span of about 15 years. And those stories are just amazing. They're possible for just about any employee, but you do have to choose the right dealership, the right group.
No, 100%, man. So great points here. I want to just address. Ed has a comment here. He says, do you use mentors in your dealership?
Yes.
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 That's very important, right? Because
When I used to bring on a new service advisor, even if they had experience, they had to spend 2 days with myself and my top, who I considered my top service advisor, that had been with me the longest and does things from A to Z the correct way, day in and day out. Within the shop, express technicians have to spend time with the master technicians. That's a requirement. So absolutely.
Yes, same with us. Everybody's got to follow a mentor that can teach them the right way. Obviously, we're going to put them in front of the best people that are consistent with the process and deliver on a great client experience. And the results are more revenue. But to Mike's point, the more they're able to mirror those activities, those daily functions, the more success they'll have when they're ready to start their job.
You know what, Paul? Real quickly.
Yeah.
My first service advisor job, I spent the dealership put me 30 days worth of training without helping a customer before I talked to my first customer. And then they put me with who they thought was their top advisor. And I owe a good part of my career to this gentleman, Ron Vandelier. Unfortunately, he's not with us anymore, but boy, he taught me the right way to take care of customers and how not to sell service, but how to make it about relationships. And that I took it to heart, and that's made me successful during my career. So mentorship is definitely a big deal if you want to be successful.
Absolutely.
Robert?
I might as well change my name to Bruce, because my mentor was the service manager, my first service manager, Bruce. And it was a small Honda dealership on Hilton Head Island. So he was a service advisor and service manager. And basically, I became the assistant service manager and the service advisor. But he had to walk me through everything that he did. And I might as well just change my name to Bruce, because I have to give him credit for everything. He ran the service department so well that in the first year after he left, they made me the service manager. All I did is just not blow anything up that Bruce created. Now, I had moved on to other dealerships, and there it was my own credit, right? Whatever I did. But then I continued that mentorship and assigning someone at least for 30 days with a mentor, but then ongoing. You've got to continue with mentorship, or else people stall in their growth.
I'm a firm believer in that. And kudos to the store that you started in, Mike. 30 days, that's a heck of an investment, right? To not talk to a customer. That is investing in your people like nobody's business. I love mentors because it's really twofold. Everybody that comes to you as an employee, they've worked somewhere else for the most part, or maybe they're brand new. But each person brings with them some baggage. If I'm onboarding somebody and I'm bringing them into my store and I set them up with a mentor, that mentor is going to do a couple of things for me. One, it's going to gauge what this new employee is all about. How does that employee fit into our culture? And two, it gives us the opportunity to set the stage for this new employee. Hey, this is our process. We've been successful at it. We're open to ideas. We welcome your ideas. If you've done something that you saw a tremendous amount of success with at your store, we'd love to learn about that and maybe implement that here. So the mentor, it's to gauge what they know, what they bring to the table, but at the same time, it's to set the stage for how you run your operation to make sure that this person knows there are bumpers. All right. You're not just going to go off a cliff on your own. We want to make sure that you're safe, right? Because it's all about our customers first and foremost. So this was our inaugural segment, Fixed Ops Retention Strategies, that we're doing once a month on the Sunday Night Live show. I hope you saw value in it. Some great stuff that got tossed around here tonight. If there's anyone you know that would benefit from some of this information, by all means, do share it with them. If you are not connected with myself, Mike, Joe, or Robert, send us a connection request, right? As my good friend Paul Machine always says, a rising tide lifts all boats. And we are all here for the same purpose, and that's to make our business better.
Hey, Paul.
And yeah.
Got a little teaser here.
Yeah.
So I put a post out inviting people to this event. And I said, Paul Simon said there are 50 ways to leave your lover. And there are at least 50 ways to improve your retention, because there are at least 50 reasons why people leave their dealer. So actually, I've got a list that I put together a couple of years ago for a presentation. It's up to 58 ways you can improve your retention. 58 little areas, small improvements, like Edward W.E. Deming said, right? If you make small improvements in every area, you're going to have exponential results. So that's just me, but there's 4 of us here. So, we're going to bring a lot to the table. And of course, those that are participating with their comments and questions, it's just awesome to be part of it.
Awesome. Thank you for watching. Thank you to those that are going to watch it on the replay. And a special thank you to you gentlemen, Mike, Joe, Robert. I appreciate you spending Sunday night sharing the passion, because together we'll make this business better. Any final words from either of you?
No, I'm just I'm excited to get the first show done and move on to other areas, because as Robert alluded to, there's a lot of things that we want to bring to the table and talk about. And I encourage the audience to come prepared with questions every week, because it's not about us just talking, the 4 of us. We'd love to interact with everybody that wants their questions answered. So we're here for you. We'll talk about what we feel is the best strategy to improve your retention, and we're happy to help any way we can.
Yeah, I'll echo that. I'm really thrilled to be a part of a panel that's so passionate about this, that we're going to bring it every once a month. And we encourage you to connect with us on LinkedIn. Ask your questions when you attend. We're going to try and hit on everything. There's so much value to be added here that we hope you walk away with 1 or 2 items that's going to make a difference for your business. Thank you.
Actionable content you can use at your store tomorrow. So gentlemen, stay on after we go off the air here. Thank you again. Have a safe and successful next week. And we'll see you next week on Sunday Night Live. Thanks for watching.